Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I keep getting these messages from patrons, and they range from kind of the subtle, hey Craig, what are you opening for singles recently, to just the outright in the form of, I can't find anything to open for singles lately. And I think I have a lot of box breakers amongst my patronage. I mean, I know I have quite a few, but as a percentage of my total patrons, I think it's decent. I probably have 20 or more of them amongst 120 patrons. And so this kind of came about because late last year, there were some really, really great opportunities to get into the box breaking business. And of course, I had taken advantage of it in summer of 2022 is when I first started with Baldur's Gate draft boxes. I would go on to open over 200 of them. And then there was a good time period for Jumpstart 22. I opened over 200 boxes of those. And then I opened a whole lot of other boxes from a whole bunch of other expansions. But the reason that there was so much opportunity at the time was twofold, and they kind of tie into each other. One is that WotC was dumping on Amazon all the time. They were dumping under wholesale costs. They were dumping under the costs that wholesalers pay Amazon at some times. And so there were a lot of opportunities over time to buy sealed product essentially straight from WotC with Amazon as a middleman. And so that gave you really, really good margins. And the second reason was that there were card stores who were suffering because WotC was undercutting them via Amazon. And so those card stores, in order to remain competitive in the market, they were having to dump a lot of boxes below their wholesale price in order to recoup at least some capital and stay in business, pay their bills, and not go broke. And so that created an atmosphere where you had a whole lot of opportunity. And at the same time, you had a lesser effect that I've talked about before, which is kind of a bad attitude from the wider Magic community, which was general poor morale, we might say. And that causing people to just kind of talk bad about sets that didn't deserve it. Things like, of course, Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate is an amazing set. It's very well engineered. It's got a lot of great cards. It supports Commander. It's wonderful. That's why I made so much money off of it. But people talked very badly about it, and it gave kind of a really bad a bad aura around it in the wider market. And so people didn't want to touch it. People didn't want to take up any of those boxes and put them back in their closet for the long term. People didn't want to consider it for box opening options to make money off of arbitraging the singles and things like that. But that's kind of a lesser effect compared to WotC dumping product out from under the rest of the supply chain. So you had all of that opportunity, but something that we've kind of realized now that we're in mid 2024 is WotC was making big changes in early 23. It was just difficult to see them. And you have to understand that when WotC makes a change, it's not only has to get through WotC's entire system and out into the market, but then it has to have time for it to have an effect on the market. And there can be a long delay between WotC making choices and things affecting numbers in the market, things like sales numbers or prices, things like that. And so we saw that market low on Black Friday of 2023, and that was somewhat a cause of, that was a result of changes WotC had already made to collector boxes, getting value back into them, slashing print runs, and things like that. But I remember on Black Friday of 2023, I was publishing video after video after video for my patrons of inverted EV analyses of all kinds of products, just showing how much inverted EV there was in them. And of course, I would do some analyses and it would come up with little or none, or maybe not enough to be worth the risk or the variance or all of that. But there were plenty of products on Black Friday that were very profitable to buy and arbitrage the singles as a box breaker single seller on TCG Player. And so, of course, we did that. And I don't just mean me and my patrons, I mean the wider community of box breakers out there. But like I said, WotC had already started making the changes. We can look back now and we can see the last 18 months of collector box performance proving that they've made the changes, that the changes were made much earlier. They were probably starting to be made in mid 2022. It just takes a long time for it to run through WotC's system and then to run through the market. And so we come to, say, March, April time period of 2024, and the boxes start to dry up. And so it would take a long time from that bottom of the market in Black Friday of 23 for the boxes to finish kind of drying up, and for box breakers like me and some of my patrons and some of the others of you out there watching this to essentially soak up those cheap boxes, open them all, sell the singles into the single side of the market on TCG Player. But we're at a point now where we've kind of done that. We've arbitraged a lot of the money out of there. And so that's why I'm getting these messages from people asking me, hey, Craig, what are you opening recently? And what do you see out there? Do you see anything? And I'll be real with you. I haven't opened any boxes in about 3 weeks now, 3, 4 weeks, maybe something like that. The last boxes I opened were ones that I bought during the bonus bucks sale in May. And before that, there were some really good opportunities still left on eBay with a couple of sellers. And I was at the point where I was buying maybe $4,000 to $6,000 of boxes at a time, ripping them all open, sorting, listing, and selling. And it was going very well, and I was making good money on it, but it's kind of closed up. So the market has tightened. The ability to get those cheap boxes, not only from card stores selling them at a loss, but WotC dumping them to undercut card stores and distributors, those kind of opportunities have kind of gone away for now. You know, the kind of dumps that you see WotC doing on Amazon lately is they're not dumping, undercutting card stores. They're not dumping, undercutting their own distributors. What they're doing is they're going out and they're looking at the secondary market, and then they're undercutting that by $10 to $20. And so they'll get the next marginal sale because they are cheaper than TCG Player or eBay, but they're not going all the way out and slashing underneath what retailers can buy for and slashing underneath what distributors can buy from WotC for. So they've kind of modified the way that they're doing the dumps. They're still moving a lot of product on Amazon, but they're doing it more with an eye towards what the market price is. In essence, they're making more money on it than they did before, but they're not directly undercutting their own supply chain, which I guess is a little better in kind of a perverse sort of way. So that brings us to, what do we do about this? You know, if a lot of those boxes that we would have bought before have dried up, in conversations with a number of my patrons, you know, it seems that unless you're getting actual distributor pricing or very close to it, it's hard to find those products that you can break profitably right now. And that's okay. Markets have cycles, they ebb and flow. You have cycles and counter cycles. You know, you have strategies to try and float your business across those kinds of things. You can do pair trades. And just an example, you know, in the stock market, you might buy Home Depot and Lowe's in case one of them has some great new innovation in selling home improvement items and starts to beat out the other for a number of years. Well, you've bet on both of them. And the same with Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and say CVS and Walgreens. And so all kinds of pair trades exist like that. But you can do things that are broader. Maybe you would bet on kind of competing industries. Say you might buy Tesla and Ford. And so if battery cars start to do better again and Ford starts to do worse, you've kind of hedged both sides of that trade. And if battery cars pull back more than they have recently and Ford kind of gets some more wind, you've hedged to that side of the trade. And in the same way, you need to kind of do that in your card business, right? Because we're moving into this era with this weak bull market that we've been in for 6, 9, maybe months now, where selling sealed product is kind of what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to take all those boxes that you bought at dirt cheap prices for the last, 3 years and start slowly moving those into the upward trending market. And yeah, right now, the ability to break new boxes and sell for singles, it's not there. It's going to take some time to come back. It's going to take some time to become nice and profitable again. It may take a couple of years, but you have to build the ability into your business to be able to profit in all different types of market cycles. And so look for those kind of things. When markets were really bad and sellers were just throwing boxes out the front door to try to get anything for them, what you should have been doing was catching that falling knife and buying those boxes, because we all knew the market would eventually turn upwards and there would be opportunity to start selling that kind of stuff. And so things that were not profitable to open even on Black Friday of 2023 may have been good to have put back into the closet and say over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, maybe it's time to start pulling out a little bit of that stuff and slowly selling it into this upwards market when the prices feel right to you. And so what I expect for box breakers like me is on the medium to long term, it's going to be rough. There'll probably be a long time when I can't get good deals on boxes to sell. That's okay. I'll focus on other things in my business. And at some point, I think a lot of the more casual box breakers who joined that part of the hobby in the last 2 years will give up. I think some of them that are maybe over leveraged or just aren't that interested or just kind of do it as way more of a hobby than I do, they'll decide to move on to other things. And that will reduce the amount of competition in the market and bring back a little more opportunity. Also, markets tend to overcorrect on the upside and the downside. And so I think we may see something like that, but I expect it to just kind of be slow for the casual box breaker like me. I expect it to just kind of be slow for the next, say, 6 to 12 months. And I'm okay with that. I've kind of moved into selling some more sealed product to my patrons, and that's working very well right now. So, I'll continue with YouTube. I'll continue with all the other things I've always done. But the casual box breaking part of the business, sadly, it's not a money machine like it was 9 months ago, but it will eventually come back. And I guess that's the other lesson. I'm sure there will be people out there saying it's all over. There's no more opportunity ever again. It was a flash in the pan, and you'll never be able to break boxes profitably again. And to that, I would just roll my eyes and not even bother trying to respond, because yes, markets cycle. They cycle back and forth like always, and eventually the box breaking will come back. Now, if you have true distributor access, you're probably still doing fine. Maybe it's a little harder for you because print runs have been reduced, but maybe it also means you don't have to work as hard. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear from people running card stores if it means that maybe you're opening fewer boxes and making better margins. So maybe that's the good side for card stores of all of this right now in the short term. So let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.